by Tzibur, which is this is halakha that Maran brings in Bet Yosef in the name of Kolbo, and Chafetz Chaim writes that the reason for this is because you want no stop between Kaddish and Yishtabach. So you want the Shech already standing by the Amud, standing by the Bima, ready for saying the Kaddish immediately after the bracha of Yishtabach. You don't want him to be stopping within it by standing up from his seat and walking to the Amud, and therefore he should be standing saying the bracha of Yishtabach. In Siman Nun Aleph, he also said that Yishtabach should be standing, and the reconciliation between those two, the Eliyahu Rabbah says that over there is minhag, over here is a halacha. Shech Tzibur must be standing and saying Yishtabach. Over there is a minhag. It's a good thing to say it, is standing up. Now, the Gra and Ateret Zekerim both write that Anshe Maaseh Tzadikim stand up when they say Yishtabach, even on Shabbat, even on Chol, even if they're davening Yechidi. Now, this is a point of contention because the Kaf HaChaim brings based on the Mekubalim exactly the opposite. Whereas the Gaon and the Ateret Zekerim, Mishna Berurah also seems to side with that, say that even a Yahid that says Yishtabach should be saying Yishtabach standing up. The Kaf HaChaim writes that L'chatchila, a Yahid should be saying Yishtabach sitting down. Only Shaliach Tzibur should say it standing up, because again, Al Pi Kabbalah, it will come out, and he says that's the minhag as well, that the Ben Ish Chai also brings this halakha, that Yishtabach should be said sitting down. And by the way, Yishtabach is a tremendous, Kaf HaChaim brings Siman Memchet earlier on, that Yishtabach is a tremendous shevach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that was instituted, according to many, by Avraham Avinu already. Actually, the Sofet, the Rashi Tevot of the end bracha of Yishtabach spells out Avraham. Pay attention and figure this out. And there are others who say the last bracha was instituted by Avraham Avinu, but the first part of Yishtabach was a shevach instituted by Shlomo HaMelech. So be that as it may, however you slice it, Yishtabach is a tremendous shevach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, important to be said properly. And now you say it standing. According to the Mishna Berurah, he says sitting. According to Ben Ish Chai and Kaf HaChaim, it has to be said with kavanah. Kol 15 shvachim shebishtabach min shiru shvacha ad mata yizaher me'ot shelo yafsik berehen. There are 15. 15 is a very big number in Yiddishkeit. It's probably even more so than 13. And you see the ma'alot of steps from Azara to going towards Kodesh was from Izrat Nashim to Izrat Israel was 15 steps, and you have 15 steps of Seder night as well. You have 15 over here as well. That those 15 you should not stop or pause between them. You should say them from Shiru Shvacha Alel V'Zibra. You want to say all those 15 in one shot. Also, that's also 15 of them back to back, that you don't want to stop between them either. The Ben Ish Chai writes the reason for this, that you have to be careful, is not to come. You have to be careful. He says even not to come to have to answer Kaddish and Kedusha. If you see that's coming up, first answer and then say Yishtabach perhaps, or say it quicker to finish beforehand. You don't want to come to stop in between these 15 words that you have, 15 shvachim, praises that you have over there. And if you see that the tzibur is about to say Kaddish or Kedusha, wait a little bit until they say you answer, and then you start Yishtabach afterwards, and only after you start saying this. And Kaf HaChaim also brings basically the same halacha. Now, Rabbi Shaul, Alav Shalom, he says that women don't necessarily have to say the bracha of Yishtabach because it's mitzvah Shas Magraba. We discussed this before when we spoke about Baruch She'amar. But nevertheless, he says they don't have to say it, but they could say it if they would like to. But Chacham Ovadia says that they shouldn't say the bracha because it is considered mitzvah Shas Magraba, and Nashim are pturot, and once they're patur, it's asur for them to say the bracha, and whoever wants to say Yishtabach should say it without mentioning Shemu Malchut. V'hamafsik says the Mishna Berurah, if you stop between those 15 shvachim, chas v'shalom, onsho gadol, there's tremendous negativity. Aval, ein tzarech sheyeh b'nishima achat, but you don't have to say it in one breath. Some people want to say it all in one shot, in one breath. Says the Mishna Berurah, you don't need to say it in one breath, even though that the Ben Ish Chai, the Kaf HaChaim, they say that you can't say it with one breath. On the contrary, not that you don't need to say it with one breath, but you should not say them in one breath. You should say it with singing, with ni'imah, with mitikut, with thinking, thought process, proper thinking every word. If you have one of those transliterated or translations of the pasuk of the Yishtabach, rather, after tefillah, you should pay attention to what's being said. The Ben Ish Chai says, on the contrary, you're not allowed to, you shouldn't be saying it in one breath, because then all you think about is when you're going to lose your breath. So you're going to run through it, and that's not a proper way of saying tefillah. So it says the Kaf HaChaim, says the Ben Ish Chai, on the contrary, you should not say them. Ben Shima Achad, you should say them with singing, with proper kavanah and proper time. So it says the Mishna Berurah. So that's a little bit different. You say those 15 items. Well, we're going to get to that as well. So it says the Mishna Berurah. V'chen katav ha'gaon Rabbi Yaakov Emden. The Ya'betz says in his Sidur the same way. V'chen mashma bezohar parashat Truma chelek bet flamet bet. Delo kashila. Not like Shla Kadosh. That Shla Kadosh seems to say you should say it with one breath. In Seif Bet, Maran writes, "En lo mar yishtabach ela im ken amar Baruch Shamar." You cannot say bracha v'yishtabach unless you've said Baruch Shamar. Because remember, Baruch Shamar is the bracha rishona. Yishtabach is the bracha achrona. So therefore, you cannot say Yishtabach bracha achrona if you haven't said the bracha rishona. It says, Maran, not only the two brachot, but you also have to have something in between, because you're saying the bracha on something, on Pesukei Zimra, so you have to say at least Ashrei. We said perhaps at least also the fifth Hallelujah, but that's the minimum that has to be said. Says the Mishna Berurah, Ben Shliach Tzibur uben Adam Acher. Doesn't make a difference if you're the Shliach Tzibur or you are somebody else. You should say Yishtabach only if you have said Baruch Shamar and a little bit of Pesukei Zimra. Yishtabach hi bracha achrona shenitchila lomar rachat Pesukei Zimra. It's the institution of Yishtabach is only to be said after you have said Pesukei Zimra. So if you said no Pesukei Zimra, there's no Yishtabach to be said either. Umatchelet bero Baruch. Yishtabach starts without Baruch. Where is the Baruch of Yishtabach? Where is the bracha of Yishtabach? Bracha Rishona. Because it's Simucha, the Birkat Baruch Shamar. It's considered attached to bracha Baruch Shamar. So you start Baruch Atah Hashem in Baruch Shamar, and then Yishtabach is kind of like continues and ends with a bracha as well. So that's the two pieces of like a sandwich, that there are some shevach in between. You have a bracha in the beginning, a bracha at the end. Therefore, you cannot say it without Baruch Shamar. Not like those people who make a mistake, and when they are in rush, they start their tefillah from Yishtabach, because Yishtabach is so important, so they start from Yishtabach. Can't start from Yishtabach. Yishtabach is the second piece of Baruch Shamar. You cannot say it if you have not said Baruch Shamar, and you can't say both of them without having a little bit of Pesukei Zimra in the middle. Says the Mishna Berurah, because if you do that, that's considered bracha lebatala. It's considered a bracha lebatala. Amar Baruch Shamar. If you said Baruch Shamar and you said some Pesukei Zimra, then you could say Yishtabach. Says the Mishna Berurah, Al Ken, Avel, a person that Chas Shalom is a mourner, or Yortzeit sheitacharu lavo lebet knesset, or someone that is keeping a azkara for a relative, is the Yom HaShana, is the Yortzeit sheitacharu lavo lebet knesset, that they came late to Bet Knesset. Now the minhag of the Ashkenazim is that the Yortzeit or the Avel becomes the Shaliach Tzibur. Sfaradim never had this. Sfaradim, the Avel just says Kaddish. And they do, on your side, they do a day of learning, they fast, they learn the entire day, they bring yeshiva to their home, minyan to their home, and they learn the whole day, and that's how they do it. They bring brachot. The minhag of becoming shliach tzibur was not a Sephardim minhag necessarily. In its core, Sephardim, they said Kaddish. In the Ashkenaz, there has been a strong minhag that the Avel or the Avel in Yud Bet Chodesh, we're not talking about the 7 days necessarily, but the Avel in Bet Chodesh or 30 days for other relatives, or a person that's observing a Yortzeit, they become the Shaliach Tzibur, right? So it comes late. By Ishtabach, he already has to be the Shaliach Tzibur, because we just mentioned Ishtabach has to be said standing because he has to be mamash right by the Kaddish. You don't want to stop in between them. So he came late. What do you do? Says the Mishna Berurah, שידחרו לבוא לבית כנסת עד קרוב לברך hu, right before Baruch Hu they get there, ומוכרחים לעמוד על כל פנים לומר ישתבח לפני התיבה, you have to say at least say ישתבח by the Amud, because אסור to be מפסיק between ישתבח and קדיש, יראו על כל פנים לומר מתחילה לעצמם, ברוך שאמר ואשרי, at least they should see to it that they themselves say, at the very, very least, Baruch Shamar and Ashrei, and also the paid Chazan of the shul, the official Chazan that has to be doing Shaharit, if he sees he's late, so on the way he should say already the minimum at least, that by the time he stands by the Amud saying Ishtabach, he has already said at least Baruch Shamar and Ashrei L'chol HaPachot. We mentioned before in Shabbat also is considered an obligatory thing to say the Nishmat. Again, we mentioned those who disagree with that Halukas take precedent over Nishmat and so on. Hey, now, the next Seif, we'll do one more Seif here in Shulchan Aruch. Maran writes in Seif Gimel, this is a very important halacha because, especially now that the nets were so late, changing the clock is easier, makes it a little bit easier, but especially when the tefillah of nets becomes very late and people have to go to work, some people have to go out, way before nets. So they daven in minyan po'alim. The problem is, even minyan po'alim, even though that they do it way before the nets, but they can't put on talit and tefillin before the zman of Mishayakir, right? You can't do it earlier than Mishayakir. So what do? You can't start wearing talit and tefillin by the time that they say Baruch Shamar, because Baruch Shamar you say before Mishayakir. So hence this Seif says Maran, you cannot say between Pesukei Zimra and Yishtabach, because Yishtabach is bracha achrona of Pesukei Zimra. So before you say Yishtabach, you cannot say bracha and talit, bracha and tefillin. If you cannot say it before, if you didn't say, you didn't have tefillin, right? You came, you forgot your tefillin bag, and the rabbi is going around trying to find the tefillin for you, and meanwhile, you're davening. It's getting late. You have to daven until they bring the tefillin from home or wherever it is, or as the time hasn't come. So in that case, as the Shulchan Aruch between Ishtabach and Yotzer, when you finish Ishtabach before you start Yotzer all, you could say you could put on tefillin, you could put on talit, which we're going to discuss the halachot of whether or not you could say bracha, when do you say bracha, and so on. And the Rama over here says, מיהו שליח ציבור אם לא היה לו טלית תחילה יתעטף בסיסית קודם שיתחיל להשתבח כדי שיאמר הקדיש מיד אחר להשתבח ולא יפסיק. If you're שליח ציבור, you have to put on טלית and tefillin before להשתבח. You cannot wait before להשתבח היוצר, כשליח ציבור, we mentioned immediately after finishing להשתבח, he has to say קדיש, and therefore for him the halacha would be a specific heter that he could say להשתבח after putting on talit and tefillin, and he could pause between Pesukot Zimra and Ishtabach by putting on tzitzit and tefillin. We're not suggesting you should say bracha. We're going to discuss that in the halachot of this Mishna Berurah. En minyan bebet knesset, and same is when you don't have minyan in bet knesset. Yamtina shaliach tzibur im ishtabach v'shtok ad she'yavo minyan. To wait by ishtabach until minyan comes, and then you say ishtabach and kaddish right away back to back. Not to say ishtabach, finish, and now you pause for a few minutes until you get minyan, but rather wait until the minyan comes, then you say ishtabach and kaddish back to back next to each other, which again, this opens the discussion of what takes precedence to what, if you're going to be waiting there for a longer time, and that by itself is a hefsek between the first bracha up to the Zimra and last brachot up to the Zimra. Do you say it? Do you not say it? And how about the yechidim? The shliach tzibur has to wait. But how about me as a regular congregant? Can I say the bracha v'ishtabach if I know the minyan is not going to come yet, and finish up my tefillah, even though the shliach tzibur is not going to say it until the minyan comes? Those are halachot of Bezrat Hashem we will discuss in the days to come.